Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the seventh ever Football Foes and Fandom Woes podcast, where myself, Austin Barkley, a Tottenham fan, former professional footballer, football coach, PE teacher, and co-host and fellow football coach and PE teacher and Arsenal fan, Phil Norman, talk all things football. Today's episode again is all about England. It's about the semi-final performance against Argentina and all our thoughts and frustrations about that game. And there are going to be quite a few that are going to be aired. Now, we have been quite supportive of Tuchel throughout the tournament. We've been positive in terms of a lot of his substitutions, which generally have worked for England. So before we get into some of the criticisms of the Argentinian games, I think as a balance, we need to look at leading up to this game where we felt that he's made some positive substitutions and we've agreed with a lot of what he's done. Now, unfortunately, with the Argentinian game, and again, if we look at some positives, the team that he set up to play, he put in a few shots, he put Rodgers out wide right. And again, we were quite happy with what he done there. He was quite brave in that. He obviously felt that Rodgers could offer something different. Saka and Madueke couldn't offer, and he looked like he'd been vindicated in that decision when we went 1-0. In the first half, I felt personally we were in control of the game, and up until the goal, I felt we were in control. Now, obviously, after the goal, it started to unravel. Before we really get into it, Phil, what are your thoughts on it, mate?
I think the squad, like you said, was vindicated, or the starting 11 was vindicated. Thought the decisions he made, which were big calls for a semi-final, were right. You know, Rodgers getting the assist for the goal. You know, Jed Spence arguably put in the best performance he's put in an England shirt. And again, you know, another very proud moment with that. I'm sure we'll talk about his tackle. I mean, that was almost bigger than the goal, wasn't it, that we scored at 1-0 at that point. But it was just a game of two phases, wasn't it? It was the first 60 minutes. You couldn't probably ask for, everything kind of went right. You know, we nullified their threat, and I wouldn't sit here and say that we did loads in an attacking sense, but we managed the game well. But
you would argue that they hadn't done anything as well.
It was no shots on target, one shot on target.
Yeah.
I think the goals, whatever it is, was like 0.03 and 0.05 for the.
I think for me, we'd nullified Messi up until that point.
I mean,
really well.
Anderson,
I thought, was incredible again. And I don't think at the match he's getting that credit after. I know we lost and whatever, but I thought he was absolutely fantastic.
He was a one-man band, wasn't he, for many parts. Yeah. His game was Messi. You know, his job was Messi, and
I think like what Messi done really well. He realised that Anderson was probably getting too close to him, marking tight. He wasn't giving him a lot of space. So what did he do? He went out wide, and that's something else we didn't react to. But we'll talk about that a bit later.
No, I do think in that first hour, you know, there's a hell of a lot to talk about and dissect from this game. In that first hour. And by the way, I think the ref, like I said to you off air, I think the ref did okay. It was always a concern going into the game. I actually think him keeping his cards in his pocket for as long as he did was probably the only mistake he made. I strongly believe Fernandez, for his elbow, his rabbit punch basically on the back of Anderson's head. As I said, it's an illegal move in UFC. If it's an illegal move in UFC, how the hell is it accepted in football? It's to not even get a yellow, to not even go to VAR. Again, I'm not always an advocate of taking the game away from the referee. You know, the referee was there and he saw it, and he obviously decided it was a foul. But that, you know, that's a red card, right? Even though it's 3 minutes in.
If he's gone with the elbow and he's hit him in the face doing that, he gets sent off.
And then
the difference then between not the face but doing the back of the neck, deliberately nowhere near the ball, and he didn't even get a yellow card for one, and then two, you would think VAR would seriously look at that. When you think about Beckham sending off, I know we're going way back, in 1998, where he flicks Simone and he goes down like he's been shot, and then for Fernandez, wasn't it, to go and elbow Anderson in the back of the head.
So dangerous.
And,
you know,
and nothing.
No, and you know, don't just think about the foul. That's potential whiplash. That's potentially a really serious neck injury that it could have been called. It could have been concussion. You know, in a day where head injuries are so focused on rightfully, that is awful. And I don't think I'm being too OTT in saying that. And to get away with it, and then Anderson, there was foul, and then
I know.
First yellow card. And so, by the way, it was a yellow card, but there was Paredes should have had about, you know, I think Simeone had 5 fouls.
Yeah.
Up point that he had that. You know, Fernandez has done what he'd done blatant red. Paredes
That,
had his should have been a yellow.
they came out with that tactic to really rough us up. And like you said, and I totally agree, the referee could have stopped that by getting out the cards a lot earlier. And for the
Yeah.
fact that Anderson got the first yellow card of the game was an absolute joke, really. So, like you said, first half, I felt we were in control. I thought Gordon and Jed were causing problems down the left
They were
side, and
brilliant.
then we
They
had
were
Reece
right back as
James
well.
and Morgan Rogers when they had the opportunities of causing. And you could tell that they were fearful of us. You could tell the fact that they were roughing us up, getting stuck in like they were. They were fearful of England.
And they
And then
exploited Argentina's weaknesses.
we
Everything
did,
we
yeah.
said about their defence, it came to fruition. We said, didn't we, in previous pods, the fullback areas is
Yeah.
somewhere where we can really, really change. Our physicality and our athleticism in the midfield, we can outrun them, which we did. Defensively, we can kind of master Alvarez or Messi to an extent, although he obviously plays a bit deeper. Absolutely.
After half time, he come out and it's pretty much the same where I felt quite comfortable. And then when we got the goal, I thought,
What's
wow, like this is it. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously after that, they're going to come out and come after you because they're 1-0 down. They're going to go out of the World Cup. So they're going to take a few more risks. So in that situation, I know that from the moment we scored the 55th minute and then to the 72nd minute where he made the first change, and we get on to that in a second. And obviously, as a team, we could see that they were dropping deep, and it does seem a bit of an England thing where we try and protect what we've got. But then, okay, this is where we've employed Thomas Tuchel to come in and reverse that. So if the players are dropping deep, and that might be just a natural thing to protect it, you're looking at him to change it and say to them, listen, we're dropping too deep. We need to push up. We need our starting position to be higher. And to rectify that, and we're going to talk about that, obviously to compound it. So we've gone into the hydration break, and you can see that now we're under a bit of pressure, and it's going to be expected pressure. Argentina are like the world champions. They're fighting for their life, and they're making substitutions where they're going to start putting on more attackers, which they did with the left winger who came on, who nearly scored with a header. And you could see what was going on. So when we went to the hydration break, one of the things I thought was going to happen is, listen, our starting position needs to be higher. We need back four. You need to push up another 4 or 5 yards. We're dropping too deep. Midfield, push them on. Harry, stay higher and push them back. But then we get obviously to the tactical substitution, and the fact that he took off Gordon and then put on Concert and went to 5 at the back. He took off one of, if not our main threat in that game, that they were petrified of. He scored the goal, and he took off. One thing they didn't want was players with pace, like we said. Yeah, coming off.
Yeah.
I bet the right back could not believe it. For me, those substitutions and the way the game went from the 72nd minute to the end of the game, the last 30 is about 30 odd minutes with added time. I watching England for the past, since 1982 really was the first World Cup. I can't remember a worse tactical substitution decision than what I saw in that game against Argentina. When he put on Concert, he went to back 5. I said to Carla, my wife, that we're in trouble now. We're in serious trouble.
It was just negative.
We're probably gonna get beat.
Such a negative statement.
It was, and it goes against everything that he was saying and what he said previously. Because when he came into the job, he said, they asked him about the Spain-England final, the Euro final, and he said England were too passive, they were too fearful, they were more afraid to lose than to go and impose himself and play on the front foot effectively. He always said, and he said after the Croatia game, I'd rather play my way and lose, okay, than play a defensive way that is not our way. And he went totally against everything that he said he was going to do, that he was brought in for. And I know we were discussing this before we came on the podcast. Southgate would never have made those decisions. He might have gone a little bit more defensive, but there's no way I would have believed that he would have gone to a back 5. He would have changed the personnel. He would have changed the personnel. Let me hear your thoughts as well.
I just want to go back to one point before we dissect, because let's be pretty honest, this whole pod is based on the last half hour of the game, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
One thing that I think there was a real little mental game that Argentina played as well in their starting 11, playing Giuseppe Simeone, Diego Simeone's son. I think that wasn't highlighted enough with the mental baggage of obviously what Simeone's dad did with Beckham. I was surprised he was in the starting 11.
I was as well, because I thought he was poor in the game as well.
I did as well. I thought DePaul would have been there. And if I'm honest, I think he was in the game solely to cause problems, have the name Simeone in the game, in the biggest game, and try and play on the histrionics of England, Argentina of yesteryear. And I think England didn't bite at all. I think for really the whole game, I thought they were excellent at times beyond really the rules and beyond what I would say is fair from Argentina in the way they went about their game. But I thought, a little bit of mental game from Scaloni, but I didn't think that worked. That didn't work.
No, it didn't.
But then, as you said, going back to the final 30 minutes, which is where the pod will focus on. I think when you strip back Tuchel, if you look back to his success with Chelsea, right? You look back to his success with Bayern. A lot of he talks about, we're going to play it his way. Well, ironically, we probably did play it his way because he is a counter-attacking manager, right? If you look at his club football, he isn't an all-out attacking manager. That's not his style. His style is defence first, and he's a bit Mourinho-esque in, I'll take a 1-0. And I'll do it my way. But the issue was, a 4-5-1 sets you up for a counter. We played a 6-4. Yeah. That's pretty much what we played. He played all his cards so early.
I know.
It was like 1-0, and it was like we panicked, and we just went, we've got to make some subs. And
so what I was going to say, we scored on around the 55th minute, and then by the 72nd minute, we were obviously under pressure, and we were going to be under pressure. Yep. Argentina were not going to sit back and just sort of fade away and be knocked out of the World Cup. They were going to come at us. Their manager, Scaloni, he's made some attacking substitutions by putting on DePaul.
Which throws their balance, by the way, of their team.
Exactly. Like you said, Tuchel has set us up pretty much with his squad as a counter-attacking team. This was the perfect opportunity for us to then counter-attack. So, I mean, when he put on Constant, we went to 5, we went to like a 5-3-1-1 really, or 5-3-2. So Bellingham but we were so deep. It's not like
our 5 were on a 6-yard box.
Yeah, it's not like Kane and Bellingham were told to push higher up the pitch to force their. Because if Kane and Bellingham go higher up the pitch, 2 defenders at least have got to mark them. So Martinez and obviously Romero have got to mark them, and then they're going to probably have to drop a midfielder in to try and stop the balls being played into them. So if they go higher up the pitch, they've got to drop with them. Then that creates a bit more space. So then you've got an opportunity of an outball. We had no outball where Kane and Bellingham were literally in front of our back, 3 midfielders who were in front of the back 5. There was about 5 to 6 yards space between them.
Lautaro Martinez and Christian Romero's position on the heat map for the last, up until they scored their second goal, was halfway into our half.
Yeah.
That was where the heat map was. They had 12. We had 12% possession. You're never going to have possession when all your players, like you said, are within 12 yards of each other from 6-yard box to pretty much the edge of the 18-yard box.
Absolutely, mate. And then to compound it, he then takes off. He brings on Dan Burn, so had another defender. And he took off Reece James then, was it?
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So then we've got John Stones, Dan Burn, Mark Gahey, we've got Konsa and Jed Spence. So we've got Konsa who's playing like as a wing back. O'Reilly then comes on, doesn't he? And that's another thing we talk about with Rice and Declan Rice. So we got Konsa at right wing back. He's not a right wing back. I mean, he can do a job as a right back, but he's not going to be able to. If you're going forward, then he's not. No, he's not going to offer much going forward in terms of their attacking half. So then we got Jed, who potentially can do that. We got obviously Gahey, Stones, Dan Burn, 3 big centre halves. And we'll talk about that when their second goal as well. So let's have 5 across the middle. Then we've got obviously Declan Rice, Anderson before Rice goes off. And we got Bellingham, Morgan Rogers, thank you. And then Bellingham and Kane up top. And like we're watching, we're sat in a 5-yard space deal on it, camped on it. Why from the sideline are they not telling Kane push up?
But it wasn't just a camp, was it? It was a narrow camp. It was box to box.
Yeah, and it was as narrow as anything. Well, we're dropping deep and we're going narrow, and we're offering out the space out wide. And Messi, obviously being Messi with his football brain, is going, right, you know what, I'm going to
just keep whipping balls in. And that Muriel that came on, who's never done that for Nottingham Forest, unbelievable. Just whipping in quality after quality after quality. And you've hit the post 3 times. They've scored 2 goals, which I know we're going to break down in a bit. It's insane. And the bit that bugs me the most is with Tuchel, all he's done in these subs is he's worked against Mexico. Yeah, but you were down to 10 men. You had to do it. It worked against Norway for like the last 5 minutes, and you were playing Norway. You're taking off Haaland, who was their
Exactly.
biggest
Yeah.
asset.
Yeah.
And with the greatest respect to Norway, they had an incredible World Cup. They're not Argentina. Haaland is
No.
not Messi. Haaland is a great number 9. Messi is
But yeah.
a ridiculous number 10, 9, 8,
It's
6.
worked against Norway, and like I said, Mexico we had to go that way because we had 10 men for half an hour, and that was the right call, and he was lauded for it, and rightly so. Norway, like I said, it was the right call because they haven't got a Messi is going to put like that amount of quality into the box for the last 10 minutes or whatever of extra
Argentina didn't
time
have
we
to
went
think
into it.
Argentina didn't have to think. They just went, well, they're sitting back. Like you said earlier, counter-attacking football, it's not just about get the ball and then explode. Have someone isolated, like occupying their two centre-backs. Whether it be Kane. We said, didn't we? An Ollie Watkins would have been the perfect.
So, yeah.
Jed Spence up there or an Anthony Gordon as a false 9.
So before we get into that, we look at the fact that then obviously Riley come on for Declan Rice. So then all of a sudden we got Bellingham, Anderson in the middle. We got Morgan Rogers, Riley as a force. We got a 5, a 4, and a 1. And in terms of where we are as a position of a team and our shape, we're still camped in front of the 18-yard box with about a 5 yards distance between all of us. You could have thrown a blanket over the whole team because when you look down on it, you could see the 1, the 4, and the 5, and how narrow it was.
It was ridiculous.
So, I mean, we talk about like as a counter-attacking team, I can't believe we went to a 5. I'm going to say what I feel like. The first substitution with Concert coming on and going to a back 5 was the wrong call all day long. For me, we should have got Saka on in place of. I think Rogers done well, but I think we needed fresh legs. So Saka should have come on the right. The fact that Saka never came on in a semi-final of a World Cup is absolutely bewildering.
And you're saying that's a Tottenham fan?
Yeah, as a Tottenham fan, I just could not believe that he never came on. I would have kept Gordon on. I would have told him to stay high. I would have told Harry Kane just to stay a bit higher. But if you felt that Harry Kane maybe was dropping too deep, Ollie Watkins, with his pace, could have come on and ran them in behind. Because Romero and Martinez, they're real quality central defenders. They haven't got loads of pace, though. And again, making them turn and run back to their own goal and chasing when they're 1-0 down is not something that they wanted to do. To sit in our half and just pass the ball to another Argentinian like 30 yards out from a goal, they got better rubbing their hands. Because they knew that Kane wasn't going to then run in behind. He was dropping so deep anyway, and yet they pushed him.
It's one of Watkins' biggest assets, isn't it? He just dogs about. Those England players did doggies for half hour. That's all they did. That's what they put time. And listen, look, Harry Kane is a great player, but he was knackered. He'd run his race, and Norway proved. There's no bigger player than the team. And I'm not saying Harry Kane carries himself. He doesn't at all. But in that moment, it's horses for courses. You needed a Watkins. You needed an Anthony Gordon in a false 9. Like I said, just someone with legs. It could have even been, like I said, go completely rogue and chuck a Jed Spence in the way he hassles and harries. And, if you've got Nico O'Reilly on, chuck him at left wing back and put him further forward. You've got a squad at the end of the day for that.
And if you're going to take Rice off, and we said this after the Norway game, put Maino in. He's the only other number 8. Henderson's injured, but we need someone who can look after the ball. Kobe Maino can manipulate and look after the ball in tight situations. We'll talk about what Tuchel said later when he said, well, it's not in our DNA to keep the ball, and we gave away too much ball possession. We'll talk about that a bit later, but Kobe Maino was there. What was the point of bringing Kobe Maino to the World Cup? What was really the point of bringing Ollie Watkins? What was really the point of bringing Ivan Toney? Ivan Toney's came on for 2-3 minutes. I don't think he's touched the ball. Ollie Watkins played a couple minutes in one of the group games. I mean, if I'm Ollie Watkins, I'm sitting there thinking, do you know what? If I come, I can affect the game here because I can run in behind. I got pace. They won't want to deal with that. Like you said, sorry, mate. Kane's run his race, really. He was shattered. So let's give them something else to think about. Let's give them something to. I know, like Kane, you're thinking if it goes to penalties, we won. But we were in a really tight situation where I think those substitutions could have influenced the game. If not Mainu, if you didn't want to bring on Mainu, bring on Eze in there, like you did before, and then put other fresh legs on the other side and bring on Rashford. Can you imagine them wanting to play Rashford when they're knackered? They played 3 games that have gone into extra time, and we've let them off the hook. It astounds me. It's that. The decisions he made, I said after the game, has astounded me. We've thrown that game away. We've given that game to Argentina.
And these are the elite managers and coaches. Like, who are we? We think we know about football, but I'm hearing more common sense from, the paupers of football than I seem to be of the guy who's got this massive, multi-million pound
I
contract to
don't. Yeah,
do the job.
exactly. I don't think anyone watching it thought. Do you know what we need to do here? We need to go five at the back and bring on Concert
Just
and
sit.
take. Yeah, yeah, and just sit. And it goes against the worst thing for me as well. It goes against everything he said and what he said he stood for and what he said about Southgate. If Southgate was the manager, we would have got to the semi-final with Southgate. In that the group that we had, he would have got out of the group, and the games we played in knockout phase with Southgate, I would have been confident we would have got to the semi-final. Now, the reason people ask for a change from Southgate is that in
Big
games
moment.
like this, there were decisions where he either reacted too late or he didn't see it coming early enough. But Southgate would never have made. He might have gone a bit more defensive, but he would never have made those decisions. Saka would 100%. He would have kept the back four and made changes around it to try and alter the team. And I tell you what, I think if you look at the last Euros, Ollie Watkins would definitely have come on because he brought him on against Holland. He made a different, scored the winning goal, and he came on in the final against Spain. So as much as Southgate got some flack for not reacting quick enough and not making the right decisions people felt at the right time, he would never have done that. He would never have done that. It's more beguiling to me or bewildering that we brought in someone in that moment that was supposed to be an elite manager that was going to change the course of the game. The players needed some help from the coach, and this is what he was meant to do.
Big moments, isn't it? It's the big decisions. That's what the elite managers are there for, and they generally, well, they don't get it wrong. And maybe, I don't know, maybe this possibly proves that Tuchel fits just under the etchelings of those elite managers that maybe we thought he was, because in the biggest moment, he has failed this team, the
Yes.
country, and himself.
Yes,
Really.
mate.
And
For me, it's like I just said a bit earlier. I think watching England and the World Cups, I think it's possibly the worst tactical decisions. Just compounding it by bringing on centre half after centre half and going really. I'm still staggered by. I'm still astounded by what I saw. I just could not believe it because that game was within our grasp,
well,
and we have literally handed initiative to Argentina and gone, go on then.
let's talk Ollie Watkins for a second. Listen, no one's going to be Harry Kane. Harry Kane is an enigma. He is a phenomenal number 9, and in England, there's no one at that level.
No, absolutely.
But we can accept that and we can appreciate that. Ollie Watkins has come off the back of an incredible last couple of months at Aston Villa. He's won the Europa League, put in a great performance. He scored 2 goals at the Etihad on the last game of the season to beat Man City in Guardiola's swan song after 9-10 years, whatever it was. He is in form. Now, like we said, Watkins, different profile to Kane, not Kane in terms of, elite strikers or anything.
Yeah.
He's a very, very good striker in his own right. But what he did offer is the attributes you need in a counter-attacking team in a game where you just need to put the ascendancy back into what we're doing and stick it on Argentina and drag them back and make them think and harry and rat around and cause them problems and knacker them out, which they were getting tied up to the hour. You just then went, well, we know, don't we? We've both played football. You were considerably higher level than myself, but we both know when you've got the ball, you don't get tired because you're just moving the ball about because you're in control. When you don't have the ball,
Argentina, didn't you?
Yeah, when you don't have the ball, it is so tiring. Because you're just moving small little doggies the whole time. Those old pre-season tests. It's for those moments. But we didn't need that moment. We didn't need to have 12% possession for the last half.
That is an absolutely horrific
semi-final World Cup
stat. Yeah,
that is the most. If there's ever a stat that embarrasses me the most about that last 25, 30 minutes, that will never go away.
Another stat was the fact that we only managed 2 passes in that time, 2 accurate passes, and that was from Pickford to one of the defenders, whether it was Stones or Gahey. I mean,
it's inexcusable. Like even at the FA, you've got to, we as a country have got to ask the FA questions and go in, is that what you want? Is Tuchel willing to change? Because he's just gone back to, he's just succumbed to the game, like to the I don't know. It's so.
So he said that whatever structure that he could have put in, it wouldn't have made any difference. I totally disagree with that. I think sometimes you've got to accept that you've made a mistake. If he came out and said, listen, I felt that this was the way to go defensively, it didn't work out the way that I had planned it. If he took some sort of responsibility then everyone, okay, he sort of recognised, he made a decision and it backfired. But the fact that he's sort of doubling down and thinking that was the right thing to do, that's how I saw it. There's not anyone who thinks that that was the right thing to do other than him. And I wonder what his assistant and all his staff are saying to him. Surely they would have thought, like, we need to do something. Because even when there was warning after warning, Pickford made a couple of great saves. They've hit the post twice. He could have looked at it and thought, you know what, this is not working. I'm going to take one of the centre-backs off, go to a flat-back four, and then change it again. But he didn't.
Did you think that's the bit? We've got to put it on the players as well. Like, I'm not just, listen, Tuchel is the man that makes decisions, right? There's 11 players on that pitch as well. We've been in teams where, you know, there's this new bit of leadership groups and all that. You're all leaders on a pitch. You all got responsibility, right? Surely those players can feel that on a pitch and go, this ain't working. Like, we need to just almost maybe go a little bit rogue and go against the manager and go, we just need to go 10 yards higher initially and then 20 yards or...
No, listen, the senior players like Stones, Pickford, Kane, those that have had tournament experience and been in this situation, the thing that I guess frustrates a little bit is that they've been in this situation. We've done it against Italy in terms of we went a goal up, then we sat back and we let them back into the game. We've done it with Croatia, we scored first and then we were dominant and after half time we just kind of sat back so you would have thought that from those experiences that as a group and a collective, even with Southgate, they would have looked at it and thought, do you know what? We need to learn from this. Why are we sitting back? Why are we letting teams come onto us? How can we then change it? It seems to be that is never, I'm sure it must be talked about, but it's never seemed to properly looked at, does it? Why are we dropping back?
Even the players' interviews after said, well, we just sat back. We were too deep. Well, do something about it. It's a bit like us as teachers. You know, if something ain't working, what do you get told to do? Be proactive. Don't be reactive.
I would say, though, that in their defence, they've come out and said they were, I think, unhappy with the tactical decisions and
Definitely.
not saying it openly, but saying it in a kind of a way that they wanted you to know that this was not their way.
And the players they had on the pitch, they didn't really have a choice. Let's be brutally honest. They didn't have a lot of choice in setting up any other way. But there's still a little question mark.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I agree that maybe
the one that gets paid to make those decisions.
He does. He could have helped them, though. He could have told them, like, move up. Like, let Pickford have the ball. We're playing out from the back when we had no one to pass it to. Why not let Pickford, like he did against Mexico, go a little bit longer and get the team up the pitch? But we didn't even do that. You could argue with that with the players. Maybe they could have done things like that. And you're looking at Stones, who's got a lot of tournament experience, and like I said, Kane, Pickford, telling the team to push up a bit more. But
this is on Tuchel. Fundamentally, this is on Tuchel. I'm just saying as a devil's advocate.
On Tuchel, because when I look at the shape of the team, you could clearly see when we had a 5-3-2, you could see the shape. If you looked over it, you could see the shape. And they went into that defensive shape every time Argentina got the ball. Then it went 5-4-1, and you looked over it, and you could see the shape, and they went into that defensive shape on the edge of the area, trying to protect the box as much as they could. But they went into that defensive shape without them putting any pressure on Argentinian players. Like Messi was just getting the ball and just crossing the ball, unbelievable crosses into the box. And we weren't reacting to it. But to be fair, I would say that when you're putting in crosses of that level, which Messi was doing, and Messi in the last half an hour was unbelievable, like the player that he is. He was putting in quality after quality, and they were just... It's very, very difficult. I know we should be defending it maybe a bit better, but it can be quite difficult. We got to try and stop that at the source. We got to get someone out there quicker to try and prevent Messi. I know that's really, really difficult because arguably he's the greatest player of all time, even at 39 years of age. For me, maybe it would have been like to say to Riley when he went out to as a left of the four, tell him, you're just going to mark Messi. He's playing out wide right. I just want you to stand on him for the next 10, 15 minutes. Just stand on Messi. Yeah, Anderson was absolutely phenomenal. Messi realised that he wasn't getting much success. We said that a bit earlier. And he's gone out wide to find the space. And then he's thought, you know what, I'm going to stay here and just do my magic from the side.
If you've got 10 players within 18 yards, 20 yards of each other and 10 yards front to back, I'm sorry, you do have to defend that box better. You can't have McAllister of 5'6".
No, I agree. I agree.
Don't get you wrong. Messi, the deliveries were ridiculous. Muriel, the deliveries were ridiculous. Fair play, like credit where credit's due. And like you said, I would have chucked one player out to go nip it at source or at least give him something to think about. But defend, if you're going defensively, defend your box. That is inexcusable. They wanted it more. and we succumbed to those crosses because we didn't get in front of them. We didn't make it hard enough for
I
McAllister.
know, but I would argue with the fact that when you're dropping that deep and you're getting tired and tired, and it's just wave after wave. It was like a training session, attack versus defense. Like, it's just really difficult, I think, when at the latter stage of the game where it's just they're coming at you, and you're fatigued. Maybe your decision making isn't as strong as it could be, and they're on the up. They're in the ascendancy, like they said in their post-match interviews. They could smell blood, and they were going. They were energised because of the way we set up, and then obviously Scaloni's throwing on more and more forwards. We're throwing on more and more defenders. We did. We gave it to them. They worked for it. They've come back again, but we've never really pushed them. And I look at the Capo Verde game. I look at the Egypt game. And even though they were under pressure, they still had an attack and a threat on the counter-attack. And we got better players. So we would have had, if we kept our shape, we would have had opportunities to counter-attack if we had made the right substitution.
And supposedly better manager, by the way. Supposedly tactically.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. An elite manager, yeah, absolutely. He was brought in that situation for that moment, and he's...
That half hour.
I saw an article or a headline that said it was a catastrophe. Catastrophe.
Easy for you to say.
I know, yeah. And it was. I've said it a couple of times on this pod that I can't think back where I've seen a tactical decision or decisions go completely as bad as that is. And he was... looking at him, he looked like a rabbit in the headlights. He looked like someone who just did not know what to do, and he's panicked, and he's tried to get us over the line. He's thought it's worked against Mexico, it's worked a little bit against Norway, and he thought against a team of Argentina quality, that's going to work. It was never going to work. Not with someone like Messi on the pitch.
But they didn't react to anything, did they? They didn't react to anything. Let's talk to one of the tactical bits when we said about short corners. What we were saying. 6 short corners in the 6th one eventually led to a goal. You're a high-level coach, right? You've played the game at the top level, Premier League and everything. What are you telling? If you're managing on that sideline and you've seen the first few short corners happen, how many short corners is it until you send someone out?
It should have been 2 players out from the first short. You're taught from a young age that if they've got a short corner, you're sending 2 players out to stop the short corner.
Yep. Well, so you send at least 1 player out, right?
I think we did. But they had 2 against 1. I think Jeb was coming out, and then but it was 2 against 1. So you send 2 players out, and then you stop the short corner. They won't generally. I mean, with Messi, they might play the old short one, but they're not going to do it like they did 5 or 6 times. I bet they couldn't believe it. They had a 2-on-1 every time on the short corner.
We were so
Messi played it into Fernandez. Either got it back and whipped the ball in, or Fernandez had a shot which scored.
Fernandez had 3 shots before he scored the goal. He had 3 sighters until he scored the goal. 2 missed, 1 saved by Pickford. Then he had the goal. 4 times the same thing happened, and we were too deep on the 4th one. Bellingham couldn't get out. But I do believe if Rice was still on that pitch, and by the way, I think his race potentially was run, but for the sake of 5-10 minutes, I think you just go, look, listen, you need to pull yourself through this and get through it. It's a semi-final of a World Cup, and I'm sure Rice wouldn't have begrudged that decision at all. Rice would have been there. I do strongly believe, I'm not saying it as Arsenal fan, I strongly believe that middle area, the minute Rice went off, we lost that middle.
We definitely did. We definitely did. But for me, if you're going to take Rice off, and obviously he's had the injury issues and the illness, you put on another central midfielder. Like it just beggars belief. And then afterwards, we got all of Tuchel's comments where he's taking no responsibilities. Basically, blame the players for being too passive, not being able to keep the ball. You can't keep the ball when you're playing in a space of about 5 yards within each other. Yeah, in your own box. Where are they supposed to pass the ball to? Like, there was literally no one. So all they could do really was get the ball, play it long, and then wait for the next wave after wave of attack. He's come out and said that he stands by everything that he's done. He said also that it was the best game that England have played in the tournament. I mean, for an hour, but then obviously the last half an hour, which was the most important part, and the part where he was supposed to come in and obviously help get us over the line, do the tactics that were going to change us for the better. We might as well have just kept Southgate in as manager. And like I said, I don't think he would have made those changes. And he must be sitting there laughing because he's had so much, I think, a lot of unfair criticism for what he's done for the England team. And then obviously there were decisions in certain games where you could argue that maybe he could have, but he would never or made those decisions, I believe, that Tuchel made in that game.
There is an inherent. I don't disagree with him fully. There is a bit of an inherent, and this is all sports in England, by the way. This is football. This is rugby. This is, there's a lot of sports that we get to latter stages of competitions, or in big test series in cricket, or important competitions, World Cups, etc. Rugby union, rugby league. We get into the depths of these competitions. We just don't find a way getting over the line for multiple reasons, right? And listen, this half hour, again, we've spoken about enough. This is on Tuchel's tactics, period. End of, no other discussion. But there is a mental block. And, I was chatting to an old colleague of ours, Miles Phelan, and he was saying it just feels like a complete loser mentality. As when we get to these, when we get this deep into competitions, we just don't find a way. We don't quite perform to, or meet the demands of what's required. Now, I think for an hour, we did. And I just feel like we've been let down completely by these decisions. And, I do think we need to change that. Historically, as proof has it, we've got to some semi-finals and we haven't got over the line. We got to a final, we've not won it. And we do need to get that. As an Arsenal fan, I saw it for 22 years and then we finally get over the line. And you do need that trophy to suddenly build on something, because it's all well and good going, we've got a really good structure. And like you said, Gareth Southgate has done brilliant things with St. George's Park. The infrastructure he's put in place, the whole setup for England now is phenomenal. But we then need the management, because we can blame the players and look, they've got to execute these decisions. But the managers are the ones on the sidelines that see it, and they need to make the decisions at the right time, be it tactically, be it substitutes, whatever it may be. And this is nothing for me about mentality. This is nothing for me about even the quality of play. Yeah. This is just, you've made a grave error, and you've just robbed us of a final against an Argentinian team that were there for the taking, because we need to defend because of what happened against Mexico and what happened against Norway. And that historically is what you've looked at and gone, it'll work against Argentina. They are leaps and miles ahead of both those teams. Stupidity, in my opinion.
For me, I'm not going to look at the players on this one. This is all on the manager. He was brought in at that particular time. We all thought in that situation he was going to go more offensive. He talked about it after the Croatia game. I'd rather play my way and go out than play a defensive way and sort of struggle on. We saw it in the Croatia game where he made those positive changes. Generally, throughout, up until that game, he has made the positive changes and the right changes. He's been lauded for it. But this was the big one. This is why he was brought in, because, like I said to you, I think Southgate, if he was a manager, he would have got us to the semi-final with the group that we had and the run that we had and the teams that we played. So he was brought in at that moment, in that decisive moment, with 30 minutes to play, to make those changes that was going to get us over the line. And Argentina were there for the taking, and we'd done so well for that first hour. Now, if he'd actually follow through on the mantra that he said of being, I want to play on the front foot, he said before about Southgate, and he's quite damning on Southgate, saying that they were too fearful, they were too afraid of losing. And he's compounded it by making it even worse. And then he's got the gall for me to come out and say it's not a part of our DNA to keep possession. It's not a part of our DNA. We've got players like Phil Foden, Palmer, Gibbs-White, Walton, who were sitting at home, and Trent Alexander twiddling their... must be listening to that and thinking, hold on a minute, without being like bigging myself up. We're some of the most creative technical players in the Premier League and in Europe. You got arguably the most technical right back in the world in Trent Alexander, who wasn't even called up when Livramento was injured before the tournament, and he brought in a centre back who was never going to play.
And I've not wanted to focus on the players.
No, we haven't. We've tried to support the squad, haven't we?
But when you come out with that comment, you then can't help but go, well, all the players you're talking about, potentially that, they might have done something in this game. I don't know, but would he have brought them on? If they were subs, I don't think they would have brought any of them on.
To be fair, maybe, but if you're not going to put on Mainu, who can manipulate the ball and look after the ball in a game like that and maybe change the tempo of the game, then you're probably right. Cole Palmer would have been perfect for that game. He's ice cold. They call him Ice Cold Palmer because he's so relaxed. He will take the ball in difficult situations. Foden will take the ball in difficult situations under pressure. Gibbs-White will do the same. Like, Walton is a great passer of the ball.
Yeah,
but those players weren't there. But like you just said Eze was there, Saka was there. We had Rashford, who was players that could come on. And
but if you wanted this powerhouse athletic midfield, Wharton has to be there. If you knew going into that tournament Rice was still struggling with his back injury, Wharton has to be in that team.
But this also goes back to my point where in the past where we've scored and we've dropped deep, there must have been discussions at the very, very top about what do we do when this happens, because this has become like a common theme. One of the things I remember when he said he picked the squad, I've thought about every particular thing that's going to happen. Yeah. And he tried to explain all this. Surely they would have thought, well, when we go 1-0 up, we've had a habit to retreat and we don't always keep the ball as well as we could. They can't afford that because they've left players or that haven't come to be able to deal with that. Or he's just not put the players on that are there to be able to deal with that.
But he's caused that.
I know.
But so Argentina didn't cause that scenario. He caused that scenario, didn't it?
He did, but we had the players on the sidelines and at home to be able to deal with that situation a lot better than the way that we dealt with it. And he's compounded our misery in terms of he can't talk about retaining ball possession when you're putting on defender after defender. With all due to Dan Burn and Konsa, they are not going to find the passes. They're not going to like bring the ball out of the back and open up and create a passing lane or beat a player and then.
But that's what I'm saying to you. They've made the scenario they planned for. He's made it and made it even worse than.
Yeah, he's compounded it.
Could have been. You've literally gone, okay, we're going to sit back, but by doing that, we feel like Argentina will come onto us, which they had to. Or go on, then we'll just sit back and then we'll chuck all the defenders on. But we'll chuck defenders on that aren't football. You know, they're not ball playing defenders, so they're just kind of there to head the ball out. And then Martinez pops up in between a back line of 6, and he's 5 foot whatever. And
I know.
I mean, by the way, the most, like we said earlier, the most beautiful, delightful, delicious cross from Messi.
It was an unbelievable cross.
Ironically,
yeah, unbelievable cross.
I think Jed could have been a bit cuter and gone down when he got stamped on. Whether VAR would have brought it back, like they did against Egypt, I don't know. And that's me being really, kind of harsh on Jed. Equally, if you get back up, you've got to just suck it up and get right out.
You know what? Maybe they were thinking, right, he's put so many crosses in with his left foot, show him the line, because obviously his right foot is supposed to be a bit weaker. Maybe thought, if we can't stop the cross, at least his cross won't be what it was. And it was an unbelievable cross. But having said that, we've got Dan Burn on the pitch, we've got John Stones on the pitch, we've got Mark Gahey on the pitch, we've got Konsa on the pitch, and Martinez, 5'10", has got a free header. How has Konsa not gone in there and challenged him for that header?
But this is what I'm saying. You've got all these players. That's what I said to you. You're chucking all these defenders on. They have to defend. They've got to see these moments. And I know it's tiring. Well, Ezri Konsa's got no excuse. He was on the pitch for 20 minutes.
All them defenders on the pitch, and the smallest player in the box has got a free header.
And McAllister's 1, 2, 3 headers.
Yeah.
Before that, and they're not a big squad. Funnily enough, Argentina.
No, but the quality of delivery was incredible. Yeah. It was incredible by Messi. Messi again showed why he's arguably the greatest player of all time.
I think we should have 30 seconds on Messi. King Messi was. When the game needed it and Argentina needed him, he steps up once again. That final 30 minutes was all him.
He's absolutely incredible. Like we said, 39 years of age, and he's finding the spaces. He's dominating the game. All of the deliveries that he was putting in was absolutely on the money. If Messi is not playing for Argentina, we're probably going through, to be fair. I know a lot of teams could say that when they play Argentina, but at 39 years of age, he's carried this team again to another World Cup final for me. Like every game, he's been at the forefront. He's making the differences. He's assisting. If he's not scoring every goal for them, he's assisting every goal. It's just staggering that someone at 39 years of age has taken his team again to another World Cup final. And potentially, I know Spain are going to be seen as probably favourites, but I think whilst they got him in the team, they got every opportunity to retain this. And I know people have said, and we maybe discussed it, maybe it's not a vintage Argentinian team, but if they would go on and retain the World Cup, then you have to say it's like one of the greatest teams ever.
And they're starting 11 all won the World Cup 4 years ago. So they know what to do. The one thing they to Spain, and again, I've got this completely wrong, by the way. Argentina, Spain final, I said England, France all day. But Spain will not revert from their possession-based game. No. And they tore France apart. I didn't think...
Do you know what?
2-0 should have been 3, but...
Yeah. I think, though, Argentina, though, They are a lot more technical and a bit similar to Spain, not obviously as controlled as Spain, but they're going to go in there and they're obviously they're really going to fancy their chances of retaining this trophy. It's going to take a lot to get to beat them because they have that unbelievable indomitable spirit, haven't they? Where they never believe that they're going to lose.
No.
They just feel that and with Messi in their team, they just know that they're going to get over the line.
And I think they're always playing with the fact that this could be Messi's last one. And that's how it's kind of been played up, hasn't it? You know, all the things that FIFA have done, all the things that Argentina have done, everything has kind of been mooted. It really does feel like if they win, there's no better time on home soil where he's playing his club football.
Yeah.
You know, I know he's playing it's the games in New York, but in America, it feels it. But then on the flip side, is it passing the torch with Yamal? He's not really turned up at this World Cup yet. You know, he looked a lot better last game.
Yeah, I was going to say, he looks a lot better against France.
But he hasn't got a goal yet. So is it his moment?
It could be. It could well be. It's going to be a very, I think, a really good game, really interesting game. Going back to Tuchel, I think the last thing we need to think about is, do we keep him on as manager? What are your thoughts? Do you think he should be manager after this? My thoughts are probably not, to be honest, but I'll speak about mine. I just want to hear yours first.
I had absolutely no problems. If this could not be there has never been a bigger question mark in football than that last half hour and whether he should continue. The bit that after the game, I thought, no, I still back him. Like, it's brutal, but I think if he can learn from it, every interview in the last 48 hours, to me, it's just it's that kind.
I feel like we've been betrayed a little bit because I felt that he was going to come in and he's talked about playing on the front foot and doing things differently to what was before, and we've all wanted to buy into that, but in that the most crucialist moment, he's completely gone the other way and compounded something that we've seen before and made it a lot worse. And it's just, I think I've lost all faith in like what he's saying because he's told us one thing and done completely the opposite. And I don't know if the players are going to be able to, because the way that they were talking after the game, I felt that there was kind of digs at Tuchel in terms of like the tactical changes, and they were not happy with it.
Exactly.
Like Mark Gahey is like comes across as one of the nicest footballers in ever. Yeah, like, and Harry Kane, that could be his last World Cup, and he must be thinking like, why did we do that? Because even he's come out and said you can't defend and just defend for 30 minutes against Argentina, which is probably the most controversial thing he's ever said, to be honest, because he's very, very diplomatic and he always generally says the right thing. And for him to say that, I mean, he knows he might never get another chance.
As the Joe public, we can see it. So why couldn't Tuchel, and he's getting paid the multi-million-pound contract? Let's call a spade a spade. We haven't been great this World Cup, really. We've had clutch moments. We had a great period against Croatia. We had a brilliant 93 seconds against Mexico. You know, we had.
I mean, the Mexico performance. You have to say the Mexico performance was really, really good. You can't take that away, I think, from anyone.
It was a really good performance, but it wasn't one that when we're talking about entertaining football, I know the red card had its bit and whatever, but even up to that point, that 93 seconds is that I want more, if you know what I mean. Like from an eye-catching perspective, you know, the Ghana game 0-0, bit of a dry lunch. You know, Panama, we did what we had to do. We got the 2 goals eventually, so on and so forth. You know, the Norway game, we could have been 3-0 down. We had a solid 30 minutes and we had a decent extra time.
I think
so. We had clutch moments rather than great performances.
It was like the Euros, the last Euros, where we play in moments. Like we have special players that can produce something in moments. We've seen that with
Bellingham. Which again goes back to what you said.
We haven't really progressed on from the Euros. So we've got through to a semi-final and to a final because of players that can produce magical moments. And again, he's not taken some of those players like Foden, Cole Palmer. We can keep talking about that. My thing is, if he stays on as England manager, what does that mean for Trent's never getting a game for 2 years? He's one of the most gifted fullbacks we've ever seen. That's another 2 years of him not playing for England. What does that say about Cole Palmer? What does that say about Foden? What does that say about Gibbs-White and Wharton? Because if he brings them in, there's going to be criticism aimed at him and say, like, basically, you got it wrong because you should have selected them for the World Cup squad. So he will have to deal with potentially that. My worry is, as an England fan now, is that those players are going to be excluded for potentially. They might not be. I think Trent definitely will be, but those other players might not be picked for the next 2 years because if he brings them in, it's kind of an admission. It's an admission he's got it wrong.
Yeah, Trent is done under Tuchel. There's no. There's no denying that.
When I look at our squad with everyone that we've got to select from, we have one of the strongest squads in the world. Okay, now he's chosen a squad, and we said that we're going to support the players that he's chosen, but he's left out some real, obviously, big name players that, for me, in those situations, could have made a big difference. But where are those players going to be left now in terms of if he stays on as manager? Because when he chose a squad, he pick those extra players at the start of the tournament before we actually got into tournament. Somebody like Alex Scott, the Liverpool winger. Yeah. So is he still going to ignore them and bring those players in? This is my worry in terms of him staying on for one. The fact that he's not recognised he's done anything wrong and he's pretty much blamed it on the players. The players then are going to be thinking, well, you've kind of thrown us under the bus a bit. Like, they will probably take some responsibility, but obviously I think they will be expecting more. And the fact that he's come out with a comment that we can't keep possession as a nation, it's not in our DNA. I mean, that is an absolutely shocking thing to say as an England man. You're basically saying the players aren't good enough.
Correct. And yeah, they're technically not good enough, and that's not cool. But then the other adage, you've got to always look at both sides. If Tuchel stays on, he stays on, right? Part that one. But if we got rid of him, who is there? And there's one name, Pep Guardiola. That he's free, he's available. Yeah. He knows all these players. Do the FA just go, Mr. Tuchel, thank you very much. You did great up until 60 minutes, and then you absolutely destroyed every part in England. Guardiola's ready. Here is the biggest contract probably any football nation's ever done a throw. A bit like what Brazil did with Ancelotti. He was ready. It backfired in the sense of what their outcome was. I don't feel like there's many other people. A lot of people talk about Eddie Howe and like that. I don't. With Newcastle, he's done an all right job. He's done a good job. Fair play to him. But I don't know whether he's the one that would get me excited. But Guardiola,
I wouldn't really have a problem with Eddie Howe. I think he could do a good job with the players at his disposal, because I think he's had some really good players at Newcastle, but he's not had a squad.
And Guardiola, for me,
obviously, you would think if Guardiola's available and he wants to do it, then you would get him.
Agreement in 2024.
The next Euros is obviously the home Euros, so. Do you know what I mean? We've got a massive advantage of playing at home. I think if Tuchel stays on, there's going to be a lot of animosity from the fans towards him now. He's going to have to go a long way to try and win the fans back. I think he's lost a lot of the trust of the England fans because they built into what he was saying and what he was going to do, and they were all excited, and we were all excited thinking that when that crucial moment come, he was going to deliver. And even if that hadn't worked, we would have gone, well, at least he made the changes that we hoped he was going to make. And he's, as we spoke about all throughout this pod, he's gone completely the other way and done things that I don't think any other England manager in the past would have done. And especially Gareth Southgate, he's been criticised for being too negative in those big games. I don't know if he can come back from it. I know it sounds astounding after like 30 minutes of football, but I don't see where he can come back from it. And I'm thinking about the players that he's not selected. Where are they going to be? Like, we can't have 2 years of no Trent,
players
no
that have lived that.
And those players that have lived with it are going to be looking at him thinking, you've cost us. Yeah, you've cost us. Yeah. So it's devastating. And I could have dealt with it if we'd gone for it and then we got beat. You'll still be gutted, but at least you can say, well, we did our best. But to lose like that in such a position of strength. All those viewers that are listening, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Tuchel? What are your thoughts on his decisions? Do you think he made the right decision? I know a couple of players have tried to come out and defend him, but I think they're in a complete minority, to be honest. But yeah, it'd be interesting to hear your decisions, what you thought about his tactics, what you think England should do in terms of should he stay on as England manager? Why he should potentially stay on, or why he should potentially go, what other candidates are out there. We love to hear all your thoughts and what you think, and about the game in general as well. Okay, thank you again for listening, and we'll see you all soon.
Come on, England.
Come on, England. Let's try and beat France.
Yeah.